Welcome, beautiful soul. I'm so glad you've joined me today. I hope you're having a beautiful, blessed day wherever you are. Today, we're looking at what you're currently in the process of manifesting, what may be blocking it, what's already shifting behind the scenes, and what you can actually do to help bring it into reality. In front of you, you have 3 piles to choose from. Take a moment, trust your intuition, and choose whichever pile you feel most drawn towards. And if you're drawn to more than one, absolutely feel free to watch multiple piles. There may be messages waiting for you in more than one reading. As always, with collective tarot readings, take what resonates with you and leave behind anything that doesn't. Not every message will be meant for every person watching. Whenever you're ready, choose your pile and let's get into your reading. Alright, my beautiful soul friends, if you picked pile 1, this reading is for you. So we're going to start off with, what are you currently in the process of manifesting, consciously or unconsciously? What are you already calling towards you, even if you haven't fully realized it yet? Okay, pile 1, you've got the Magician, the 8 of Wands, and the Fool. You are manifesting movement. And I don't just mean something changing slightly around you. This feels like you're calling in a completely different chapter of your life. Alright, the Magician here tells me that there is something you've been trying to create, change, or initiate for a while now. But with the Fool beside it over here, I actually think the deeper manifestation is freedom. Freedom to try something different. Freedom to stop doing things the way you've always done them. Freedom to say, I don't actually know exactly where this is going yet, but I know I can't stay where I am. And with the 8 of Wands, what you're manifesting is definitely not stagnant. You're manifesting momentum. For some of you, there may be an opportunity, decision, conversation, move, project, or a completely new direction that suddenly starts picking up speed. But I think what's interesting here is that you may currently believe you're manifesting one particular outcome, when really you're manifesting the opening that allows your life to become much bigger than that outcome. The Magician says you've already been putting the energy out there. The Fool over here says you may not fully understand where it's leading yet. And the 8 of Wands says once it starts moving, it could move very quickly. So pile 1, I would say you're currently manifesting a breakthrough into a new phase of your life. One where you have more agency, more possibility, and far less of that feeling of being stuck waiting for something to happen. And I really want you to remember this as we go through the rest of your reading. You're not necessarily manifesting the life you already have with one thing added to it. You may be manifesting an entirely new version of your life. Alright, with that being said, pile 1, we are now going to look at what is currently delaying or blocking this manifestation from fully coming into your reality. Okay, so we have the 10 of Pentacles, the 5 of Pentacles, and the 4 of Cups. Pile 1, I think part of the blockage here is that you can see the end result very clearly. The 10 of Pentacles is the established version of what you want. It's the security, success, relationship, home, career, whatever this manifestation represents for you. You don't just want a little taste of it. You want the real thing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But then we move into the 5 of Pentacles, and this tells me that underneath that desire, there may also be a fear of, what if I never actually get there? What if there isn't enough? What if I miss my opportunity? What if everybody else seems to be moving forward and I'm still standing here? And I think that fear is creating the 4 of Cups, because you may be so focused on what hasn't happened yet that you're not fully recognizing what's already beginning to open for you. There could be an opportunity in front of you right now that looks smaller, slower, or different from what you pictured. And because you're looking for the Ten of Pentacles, you could very easily look at that Four of Cups offer and think that's not it. But what if it is? What if it's just the beginning of it? This feels especially important after your Magician, Fool, and Eight of Wands, because your manifestation requires you to be willing to enter something before you know exactly where it's going to lead. You might be waiting for certainty, waiting for the perfect opportunity, or even waiting until something looks substantial enough to prove that it's going to work. But the Fool doesn't work like that, my dear friends. The Fool takes the first step before the Ten of Pentacles exists. So I don't think your manifestation is being blocked because you're incapable of creating it. I think the challenge is learning to stop measuring every new opportunity against the finished version of your dream, because something that initially looks insignificant could actually be the doorway into everything you've been asking for. Okay, so now pile one. We're going to look at what is already shifting, developing, or being put into place for this manifestation that you may not be able to see yet. Okay, so you got the Chariot, the Three of Wands, and the Two of Pentacles. Pile one, I actually think far more is already moving than you realize. The Chariot is forward movement. It's direction. It's something beginning to gain momentum. And then the Three of Wands tells me there are things developing beyond what you can currently see. You may have already made a decision, changed your mindset, started something new, put yourself out there, or taken some kind of first step. And now there is a part of this manifestation that has moved outside of your immediate control. That's important because I think some of you keep looking around thinking, okay, but where is it? Where is the proof that this is actually working? And these cards are saying the proof may not be visible yet because the next stage is still traveling towards you. And the Three of Wands is very much that energy of having sent something out and now waiting to see what comes back. But then we have the Two of Pentacles. So behind the scenes, there are still pieces being moved around. Timing is being adjusted, priorities may be shifting. There could be more than one opportunity, route, or possibility developing at the same time. And I don't necessarily think you need to force one of them into place yet. Because remember, your first cards were the Magician, the Fool, and the Eight of Wands. You're manifesting a new direction that ultimately creates a lot of movement. And now we have the Chariot confirming that the movement has already begun. It just might not look neat yet. The Two of Pentacles can feel messy while you're inside of it because things are still being rearranged. But that doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means your reality is trying to catch up with the direction you've already chosen. So pile one, what's happening behind the scenes is that your path is being opened. Things are moving into position. You may not know exactly which opportunity, person, decision, or route becomes the one that takes you forward yet, but you're no longer standing at the starting line. The Chariot tells me very clearly this manifestation is already in motion. And I think that should get you so excited, pile one. I'm like so excited for you. Now we're going to have a little look at what are you being asked to believe is possible for you now, and where do you need to think bigger than you currently are. Okay, so we have the Six of Swords, the Four of Swords, and the Ten of Pentacles. And pile one, the Ten of Pentacles has come out again. So I really want to emphasize that. Because earlier, this was showing us the life you ultimately want, and that sense of security, stability, abundance, something that feels established and lasting. And now Jupiter's bringing it straight back out and saying, why are you treating this like it's too much to ask for? I think you're being asked to expand your belief around how good your life is actually allowed to become. Because the Six of Swords and the Four of Swords tells me that some of you have become too accustomed to navigating difficulty, uncertainty, or constantly having something to fix. That peace itself can almost feel unfamiliar. You might know how to survive, how to push through. You might know how to keep going when things are difficult, but Jupiter is asking, can you imagine a life where you don't constantly have to? The Six of Swords is moving away from rougher waters. The Four of Swords is rest, recovery, and breathing room. And the Ten of Pentacles is what exists on the other side of that. So thinking bigger for you doesn't necessarily mean doing more. It might actually mean believing that you can have more stability with less struggle, more abundance without constantly proving yourself, more security without waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I think this is especially important because the Ten of Pentacles originally appeared in the position of what was blocking you. You could see this beautiful end result, but part of you may have been looking at where you are now and thinking, how could I possibly get from here to there? Jupiter is saying, stop using your current circumstances to decide the limits of your future. Because the Six of Swords is literally a transition card. Where you are now is not where you're staying, and maybe the belief you're being asked to expand is actually quite simple. Life can get easier. You can move out of survival mode. You can have something stable. You can build something that lasts. And that Ten of Pentacles coming out twice feels like a very strong message for this pile. Don't shrink the vision just because you haven't reached it yet. Now we are going to have a little look at what practical action, discipline, or commitment is required from you to help this manifestation become something real and lasting. Pile 1, I just cannot believe this. We have the Ten of Pentacles again, the Three of Cups, and the Seven of Swords. So at this point, I don't think we can ignore the Ten of Pentacles. It's literally come out 3 times. This is very clearly what you're moving towards, pile 1. Something stable, something sustainable, something that isn't just exciting for 5 minutes and then disappears. You're trying to build a life that actually feels secure. And Saturn is saying that if you want the Ten of Pentacles, you have to start thinking about what creates the Ten of Pentacles, not just what feels good today, not just what gives you immediate gratification, but what am I building? Where is this decision taking me long term? Does this actually support the life I'm trying to create? Because Saturn wants consistency, and I feel like part of your action here is becoming much more intentional about where you're placing your time, energy, and attention. Then we have the Three of Cups. And interestingly, I looked at the camera while I was pulling these cards and it said 333. So if 333 has been showing up for you lately, or that number means something to you personally, I would take that as another little emphasis on this card. Because I don't think you're necessarily supposed to build this entirely by yourself. The Three of Cups can be your friendships, your community, collaboration, networking, people supporting you, or simply allowing yourself to be around people who actually encourage the future you're trying to create. And then we have the Seven of Swords. This is where Saturn becomes a little more confronting, because I think Saturn is asking you to look at where you might be avoiding the very things that would move you forward. Where are you procrastinating? Are you talking yourself out of something? Are you disappearing when something starts to feel vulnerable or uncertain? Where are you trying to find a shortcut because the long-term path feels slower? And for some of you, this can even be, where are you trying to do everything alone because asking for help feels uncomfortable? The Seven of Swords doesn't always have to mean someone deceiving you. In a reading like this, it can very easily be the ways we quietly work against ourselves. And I think Saturn is asking you to become aware of those patterns, because the Ten of Pentacles isn't coming through as some random fantasy anymore. It keeps repeating. So the message feels like, if this is genuinely the life you want, Start behaving like it's something you're building, not something you're waiting to be handed. Build the relationships, build the habits, build the skills. Make the decisions that your future self will benefit from. And be honest about the places where you know you're avoiding something. Because Saturn isn't saying you can't have this. If anything, Saturn is saying yes, but make it solid. Now we're going to have a little look at what habit, fear, or pattern could sabotage this manifestation if you don't become aware of it. We've got the Six of Pentacles, the Two of Pentacles, and the Three of Cups. I cannot get over how many repeated cards you guys are getting, pile one. I don't think I've had this many repeated cards in a reading before. I think the biggest thing that could sabotage this is giving too much of yourself away. The Six of Pentacles immediately brings up the balance between giving and receiving. For some of you, I think you're incredibly used to being the person who gives. You give your time, your attention, your energy, your support, maybe even your money or resources. And there's nothing inherently wrong with generosity. But the question here is, are you giving from abundance, or are you constantly giving from the same energy you're supposed to be using to build your own life? Because then we have the Two of Pentacles, and this card has already appeared earlier in your reading, so I really want to emphasize that repetition. Earlier it showed us that there were still moving pieces around this manifestation, but here, as something that could sabotage you, it becomes trying to keep too many things going at once. Too many responsibilities, too many priorities, too many people needing something from you. And you may have this habit of saying, it's fine, I can manage it. But just because you can juggle everything doesn't necessarily mean you should. Because eventually something gets the leftover version of you, and I don't want that something to be your own future. Then we have the Three of Cups, and we literally just had this in the previous question. So community, friendships, and other people are obviously an important part of your story. But in this position, I think there's a warning around being too influenced by your social environment. Maybe you get distracted very easily by what everybody else is doing. Maybe you're constantly available when people want your attention. Maybe you struggle to say no because you don't want to disappoint anyone, and that's so fair. Maybe there's a part of you that wants the people around you to understand or approve of the direction you're taking. And I think the message here is you can love people without giving them unlimited access to your energy. You can support people without making their priorities your priorities. And you can have a beautiful community around you without allowing that community to distract you from what you're trying to build. Because remember, the Ten of Pentacles has appeared 3 times in this reading. You're not manifesting something small here. You're trying to build something stable, substantial, and lasting. And that requires you to become very intentional about where your energy goes. So the pattern to watch for is overgiving, overcommitting, and constantly trying to keep everybody else happy while juggling your own goals somewhere in the background. You don't have to abandon your relationships to prioritize yourself. And you may need to stop giving everybody else the parts of your energy and then expecting yourself to build your dream with whatever is left. So now we're going to look at what changes once you fully commit to this manifestation. Okay, so you've got the Three of Pentacles, the Nine of Swords, and the Seven of Cups. Pile 1, I think the moment you fully commit to this, it stops being an idea and starts becoming something real. The Three of Pentacles is building. It's learning, putting the pieces together. It's taking something that exists in your imagination, and actually beginning to give it structure. And considering how many pentacles we've already had throughout this reading, I think that's incredibly significant. Because this whole reading keeps bringing us back to the same message. You're not just being asked to dream about a different life. You're being asked to build one. And then we have the Nine of Swords. And I actually think something interesting happens once you make that decision. Your fear might get louder, not because you've made the wrong choice, but because suddenly there's something at stake. It's very easy to imagine a dream when it's somewhere off in the distance. But once you say, no, I'm actually doing this, all of those thoughts can start coming up. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I choose incorrectly? What if this doesn't turn out the way I imagined? And I really don't want you to interpret that anxiety as a sign that you're supposed to stop, because then we have the Seven of Cups. I think once you begin moving towards this manifestation, your world actually gets bigger. More options appear, more paths become available. You start seeing possibilities you couldn't see from where you were standing before. And that sounds exciting, and it is, but it can also be overwhelming. Because now instead of thinking, how do I get there? You might suddenly be thinking, okay, which way do I go? And I think that is one of the biggest shifts for pile 1. Right now, you might be worried that there aren't enough opportunities, but once you really commit, the problem may become choosing between them. And notice how beautifully that connects back to your first cards. You started with the Magician, the Fool, and the Eight of Wands. The Fool opens the door. The Eight of Wands brings movement. And then the Seven of Cups says that movement may open multiple doors at once. So your job isn't going to be chasing absolutely everything that becomes available to you. It's going to be learning how to recognize which of these possibilities actually leads towards my 10 of Pentacles. Because we've seen that card 3 times now. You already know what you're trying to create at the deepest level. Security, stability, something meaningful, something that lasts. So when the Seven of Cups appears and suddenly there are 5 different directions you could take, your long-term vision becomes your filter. And I think the Nine of Swords is also reminding you, don't let fear make the decision for you. Because fear might tell you to choose the safest option. Fear might tell you to stay exactly where you are. Fear might even convince you that having uncertainty means you're not ready. But you don't need every detail figured out before you begin. The Three of Pentacles says start building, learn as you go. So what changes once you commit? Your manifestation becomes tangible. More possibilities begin to appear. And you're going to have to learn the difference between a genuine redirection and your own anxiety trying to pull you back into what feels familiar. So now we're going to look at what is the next tangible step you can take towards making this manifestation real. Okay, so you have the Queen of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Sun. Pile 1, your next step is clarity followed by action. The Queen of Swords is asking you to cut through all of the noise. What do you actually want? What makes sense for the future you're trying to create? And what are you ready to stop entertaining because you already know it isn't taking you there? Because then we have the Ace of Pentacles. And this is incredibly practical. There is a first step available to you. Apply for something. Start the project. Make the appointment. Have the conversation. Create the plan. Put the money aside. Whatever it looks for you. The Ace of Pentacles says give this manifestation somewhere physical to begin. Don't leave it entirely in your imagination. You have to actually take the steps towards your manifestation. You can't just wish that it will happen. And then we have the Sun. So I also think you're being asked to approach this with more confidence, Pile 1. You may have spent so much time considering what could go wrong that you've forgotten to ask, what if this actually works? The Sun says there's something here that wants to be seen, pursued, and enjoyed. So your next tangible step is actually quite simple. Get clear, choose the direction, then do one real thing that proves to yourself you're serious about it. Now we're going to have a little look at what could this manifestation become over the next 12 months, over the next 6 to 12 months. You're not going to believe what this card is. This is the Ten of Pentacles. Are you actually kidding me right now? What the actual... Okay, so you've got the Ten of Swords, the Ten of Pentacles again, and the Empress. First off, pile one. We need to talk about these two tens because I love my numerology. So tens represent completion, culmination, and the end of a cycle. But 10 also reduces back to 1. So there's this beautiful idea within the tens of something reaches its natural ending, so something completely new can begin. And that's exactly what I see here. The 10 of Swords feels like a version of your life, a belief system, or even a period of struggle reaching the point where you simply cannot carry it forward anymore. Something is finished. And immediately after that, the 10 of Pentacles appears again. This is now the 4th time you've received this card in your reading. And at this point, I think this is the central manifestation for pile 1. Long-term stability, security, and having something substantial to show for everything you've been building. And then we end with the Empress, which is growth, abundance, creation. Actually being able to receive and enjoy what you've created. So over the next 6 to 12 months, I don't think this manifestation simply adds something new to your existing life. It looks like it could mark the completion of an old chapter and the beginning of a much more abundant one. And remember where this reading started. The Fool told us you were entering a new chapter before you could fully see where it was leading. Now we're ending with 2 tens. You're completing the cycle that the Fool was asking you to begin. And on the other side of it is the Empress, something you have nurtured, finally having the space to grow. I feel like there couldn't have been a more perfect spread for like the end of the tarot portion. Because now we're going to see what's your oracle message or final manifestation advice. Pile 1, you guys got Beach Pod, wishes granted. I mean, after this entire reading, this feels like such a perfect card to end on, because the message here is not simply your wish is going to magically appear. It feels more like you're being shown what it takes to become someone who can actually hold what they've been asking for. We've seen the Ten of Pentacles 4 separate times. We've seen the Magician, the Fool, the Sun, the Empress, and now we end with wishes granted. So I do think there's something you've been hoping for, visualizing, working towards, or quietly asking for that has a real potential to become tangible. But this reading has also been very clear that manifestation isn't passive for you. You're being asked to choose, to prioritize, to stop scattering your energy, to take the opportunity when it appears. And most importantly, to stop assuming that the life you want is somehow too far away from the life you have now. Because sometimes a wish being granted doesn't look like everything arriving at once. Sometimes it starts as one Ace of Pentacles, one opportunity, one decision, one door opening, and then you build from there. So your final message, pile 1, is this. Don't give up on the wish just because you're still in the process of becoming the person who can receive it. Something is already moving. Something is already growing. And if this reading has shown us anything, is that what you're building has the potential to become much bigger and more stable than you currently realize. If this was your pile, let me know in the comments what resonated the most, and if you're ready to make this manifestation real, claim it below. And if you'd like to be part of the community we're building here, I invite you to subscribe and bring your energy into this space. I'd genuinely love to have you here for the readings to come. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Alright, if you picked pile 2, this is your reading. So we're going to start with, what are you currently in the process of manifesting, consciously or unconsciously? What are you already calling towards you, even if you haven't fully realized it yet? And just a little housekeeping note, pile 2, these cards are super glossy, okay? And if I hold the card directly towards my camera, you can see the viewfinder. So if you're wondering why I'm holding the card ever so slightly on an angle, it's so that is not happening, because that drives me crazy. I don't know about you, so just a little FYI. Alrighty, pile 2. You have the 9 of Swords, the 3 of Cups, and the 5 of Swords. I actually think you're manifesting peace. And maybe that sounds almost too simple, but these cards make me feel like you've spent a lot of time mentally carrying things that you don't want to carry anymore. The 9 of Swords can be overthinking, worrying, replaying situations in your head, wondering what somebody meant, or worrying about what happens next. And the 5 of Swords can be overthinking, worrying, replaying situations in your head. And the 5 of Swords can be conflict, competition, tension, or even situations where you technically win, but you still walk away exhausted. And right in the middle of these 2 cards is the 3 of Cups. I think that's what you're really calling towards you. Connection that feels easy. People you don't have to second guess. Relationships where you can actually enjoy yourself instead of constantly analysing where you stand. A life where there's room for friendship, celebration, creativity, and simply feeling like yourself again. For some of you, you might think you're manifesting a particular person, opportunity, or outcome. But honestly, underneath that, I think what you're really asking for is, can my life stop feeling like such a battle? Can I have people around me who genuinely want to see me do well? Can I stop accepting conflict? Can I experience something without immediately worrying about how I'm going to lose it? And I think the answer is that this is exactly the direction you're moving towards. The 3 of Cups feels like you're calling in your people, your support system, more joy, more belonging, and maybe even a version of yourself who's able to participate in life again instead of living so much of it inside your own head. Which I'm definitely guilty of too, pile 2. You may think you're trying to manifest one specific thing, but I think you're actually manifesting a completely different emotional environment. One where you don't have to fight for your place. One where you don't have to constantly be on guard. And most importantly, one where happiness doesn't feel like something you have to earn through struggle. Our next question we're going to have a little look at is, what is currently delaying or blocking this manifestation from fully coming into your reality? Alright, so we have the 5 of Swords, 6 of Wands, and the Wheel of Fortune. So, pile 2, the 5 of Swords has come out again. So whatever this represents for you, I really don't think it's something we can just brush past. There may still be a part of you that feels like you need to prove something. Prove that you were right, prove that someone underestimated you, prove that you're successful enough, desirable enough, good enough. And then we have the 6 of Wands, which can absolutely represent recognition and success, but in a blockage position, I think it asks how much of what you're chasing is actually for you, and how much of it is about being seen a certain way by other people. Because if your sense of progress depends on somebody else noticing, validating it, regretting losing you, or finally recognizing your worth, then you're still giving them a lot of power over where your energy goes. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. The wheel tells me that something in your life is already trying to change cycles, but I wonder if you're still looking backwards at something that belonged to the previous one. Maybe you're trying to get closure. Maybe you're waiting for someone to acknowledge what happened. Maybe there's an old version of success you're still trying to achieve simply because at one point you decided it would prove something. And the wheel is saying, you don't have to win the old game before you're allowed to leave it. That feels really important, because remember, you're manifesting more peace, connection, and emotional release. and emotional ease, but you can't fully step into that if part of you is still preparing for another battle. So the blockage here may not be that your manifestation isn't coming. It may be that life is already turning the wheel forward and you're being asked to stop measuring your future by what happened in your past. You don't need everybody to understand you. You don't need everybody to choose you, and you certainly don't need to prove your worth before you're allowed to move on. Let the cycle change. Now we're going to have a little look at what part of this manifestation is already shifting, developing, or being put into place behind the scenes that you may not be able to see yet. Okay, so you've got the 5 of Coins, the Knight of Cups, and the 4 of Swords. Pile 2. I think something is already beginning to shift around the feeling of lack. So the 5 of Pentacles can be that feeling of being left out, unsupported, rejected, or like something you want is always just slightly out of reach. But then we move on to the Knight of Cups. And this feels like something softer beginning to approach you. Think an invitation, an emotional opportunity, a new connection, something creative. Or simply an experience that reminds you that life does not always have to meet you through struggle. And then we have the 4 of Swords. So I actually think part of what is happening behind the scenes is healing. You may not be seeing dramatic external movement yet because something within you is being allowed to settle first. You're coming out of a period where your nervous system, your thoughts, or even your relationships may have felt constantly activated. And the 4 of Swords says you're being prepared to receive something from a calmer place. And that's important because if you're used to the 5 of Pentacles, you can accidentally assume that anything good is temporary or about to disappear. But the Knight of Cups is asking you to become available for something different. Something kinder, something you don't have to fight for. So pile 2, what is already changing is that you're moving out of an emotional environment built around lack and into one where receiving becomes possible again. You may not see the full manifestation yet, but the space for it is already being created. So now we're going to look at what are you being asked to believe is possible for you now. Where do you need to think bigger than you currently are? Okay, so pile 2. You've got the 10 of Swords, the Ace of Cups, and the Page of Swords. You have so many swords in this reading, and as a little side note, this is low-key, might be a bit gross, but I've been burping constantly while reading your pile, so I feel like I keep getting this feeling of pressure needing to come up and be released. Because the 10 of Swords says something has reached its end. A painful thought pattern, an old story, a way of viewing yourself or your future that you have carried for far too long. And Jupiter is asking you to believe, what if this really can be over? Not temporarily, not until the next disappointment, actually over. Because immediately after the 10 of Swords, you have the Ace of Cups. And that's such a beautiful transition. The ending creates space for something emotionally new. New love can absolutely be part of this for some of you. But this can also be new friendships, creativity, emotional fulfillment, a deeper relationship with yourself, simply feeling open to life again. And then the Page of Swords tells me there may still be a part of you watching everything very carefully. Looking for red flags, waiting for something to go wrong, trying to understand every possible outcome before you let yourself relax. And I think Jupiter is asking you to expand beyond that. You do not have to know everything before you allow yourself to experience something good. The Page of Swords wants information. The Ace of Cups says sometimes you have to experience it first. So pile 2, what you're being asked to believe is possible is a completely different emotional chapter. One that isn't constantly being filtered through what hurt you before. Your past can teach you, but it does not have to predict what happens next. So now we're going to have a little look at what practical action, discipline, or commitment is required from you to help this manifestation become something real and lasting. Okay, so you have the moon, the 3 of coins or pentacles, and the wheel of fortune. Pile 2. I think Saturn is asking you to become much more comfortable with moving forward before you have complete certainty. The moon can bring fear, doubt, confusion, and that feeling of, but what if I can't trust where this is going? And considering how many swords you've had, I think there's a tendency here to want to think your way into feeling safe, to analyze every possibility, to understand what something means before you fully step into it. But Saturn is saying that at some point, you have to stop waiting for every fear to disappear before you start building. Because then we have the 3 of Pentacles, and this is very practical. Work with what you know now. Build the skill, make the plan, ask for help, let other people contribute. Take the next step even if you cannot see 10 steps ahead yet. You do not need the entire path illuminated. You just need enough light to work with what is directly in front of you. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune, and this is the second time I believe it's come out. Earlier, it appeared in your blockage, and I said that life was trying to move you into a different cycle. Now Saturn brings it back and says you have to participate in that change. You cannot keep asking for a new chapter while continuously organizing your life around the old one. So there may be a decision here where you have to trust that something has run its course, whether that be a pattern, a relationship dynamic, a belief, an environment, even a version of yourself, and then actually begin building differently. The moon says you may not feel completely ready. The 3 of Pentacles says do the work anyway. And the wheel says that once you begin moving with the change rather than resisting it, the cycle can finally turn. So Saturn's message is stop requiring certainty before commitment. Build what you can, accept support, and allow yourself to move with the life that's trying to open in front of you. Now we're going to move on to what habit, fear, or pattern could sabotage this manifestation if you don't become aware of it. Alrighty, pile 2. You've got 10 of Wands, 6 of Wands, and Queen of Cups. I think one of your biggest patterns is taking on too much and then feeling like you still need to prove that you're coping with it. So the 10 of Wands is carrying everything: responsibilities, other people's expectations, emotional weight, things that perhaps were never entirely yours to begin with. And then with the 6 of Wands, there may be this pressure to still appear successful, capable, or completely in control while you're carrying all of it. I can handle it, I'm fine, I don't need help. But eventually, constantly proving how strong you are becomes another burden. And then we have the Queen of Cups. So for some of you, I think a huge part of this comes from being incredibly emotionally available to other people. You feel what they're feeling. You understand why they behave the way they do. You make allowances, you support them. But the danger is that you become so focused on everybody else's emotional world that your own needs keep getting moved further down the list. And remember, what you're trying to manifest in this pile is peace, connection, and a life that doesn't constantly feel like a battle. You cannot create that while continuously volunteering yourself for emotional exhaustion. So the pattern to watch is over-functioning, carrying too much, needing to be seen as the strong one, and giving emotional energy long after you've run out of it yourself. The Queen of Cups does not need to stop caring. She just needs to remember that compassion without boundaries eventually becomes depletion. You don't have to prove your worth by how much you can endure. And that brings us to our next question, which is, what changes once you fully commit to this manifestation? You guys have the Empress, the World, and the Sun, pile 2. This is huge. Every single card here is a major arcana. So once you fully commit to creating this different life for yourself, I don't think we're talking about a small shift here. This looks like the end of an entire chapter. The Empress is abundance, growth, receiving, creativity, but more than anything, she knows that she does not have to exhaust herself to be worthy of having something good. And that feels incredibly important after your 10 of Wands. You move from how much can I carry to what actually nourishes me. And then we have the World. Something completes. And considering how many cards in this reading have talked about letting an old cycle end, I think this is confirmation that you really do close it. You stop going back. You stop needing the old situation to resolve differently. You stop organizing your future around something that has already finished. And then we end with the Sun. That's clarity, confidence, joy, being fully present in your own life again. And I love this because pile 2 started with so many swords, so much overthinking, worrying, conflict, and mental noise. But look where you're going, the Sun. You don't have to analyze happiness while it's happening. You just get to experience it. So once you fully commit to this manifestation, pile 2, I think you become much more receptive. You finally complete an old cycle and you enter a period where life feels lighter, clearer, and much more like your own again. So now we're going to have a little look at what is the next tangible step you can take towards making this manifestation real. Okay, so you have the Ace of Coins, the 7 of Wands, and the 5 of Coins. Pile 2, your next step is to choose something real and protect it. So the Ace of Pentacles is a practical beginning. It's an opportunity, a new routine, a financial decision, a job, project, connection, course, application, something tangible that gives this new chapter somewhere to actually begin. So I don't think your next step is more thinking. It's doing one concrete thing. But then we have the 7 of Wands, and this tells me that once you choose it, you're going to need to hold your ground. Not everybody has to understand your decision. Not everybody has to agree with the direction you're taking. And you may need stronger boundaries around the people, habits, or situations that keep pulling you back towards your old cycle. Then we have the 5 of Pentacles, which you've already had earlier in this pile. So I think there's also a very clear message here around not making your decision from fear of lack. Don't stay somewhere purely because you're frightened there won't be another opportunity. Don't accept less because you're scared of being left without anything. And don't immediately reject an opportunity because part of you believes things like this don't work out for me. Because that's the old story, pile 2. The Ace of Pentacles is literally showing you a new one. So your next tangible step is take the real opportunity in front of you, protect the direction you've chosen, and stop allowing scarcity to make your decisions for you. Now, our last question for the tarot cards is, what could this manifestation become over the next 6 to 12 months? So you have the 3 of Coins, the Queen of Coins, 5 of Swords, and the Fool. Pile 2, I think over the next 6 to 12 months, this becomes something you're actively building into a much more stable life. The 3 of Pentacles has already appeared in this reading. So again, we have this message of participating in the change. Learning, building, accepting support, putting consistent effort into something that has real potential to grow. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles. So this feels like you becoming much more grounded in yourself, more secure, more selective with your energy, more focused on what actually supports your well-being rather than constantly reacting to whatever is happening around you. But then we have the Five of Swords, which has appeared again. This is now the third time we've seen this in your pile. So I think part of the next 6 to 12 months is genuinely leaving behind this old relationship with conflict. The need to prove yourself, the mental battles, the situations where you keep wondering who won, who lost, what somebody thinks of you, or whether you should go back and fight one more round. At some point you realize, I don't actually want to live like this anymore. And then at the end, the Fool, a completely new beginning. And I love that this comes out after the Five of Swords, because it almost feels like you finally put something down and say, I'm done carrying this into the next chapter. So I don't think this manifestation simply gives you one thing. I think it actually changes how you move through your life. You become more grounded, you build something real, you stop feeding battles that have already taken enough from you, and then you give yourself permission to start again, but lighter this time. So now we're going to turn to the oracle and we're going to ask, what's your final manifestation advice? Okay, so pile 2, your oracle card for today is Treasure Island. It's the law of attraction, dreams coming into fruition, and the results of positive thinking. Pile 2, this feels like such a perfect ending because your entire reading has been about moving out of conflict, fear, and expecting the worst. And now we end with a card that says what you have been asking for can actually begin to take form. But I don't think this is telling you to pretend everything is perfect or force yourself to think positively all the time. It's more about becoming aware of what you continuously expect from life. If you've spent years expecting disappointment, rejection, or conflict, then part of your manifestation work is allowing yourself to imagine, what if something good actually stays? Because we've seen the Ace of Cups, the Empress, the World, the Sun, and the Fool. There's so much energy here around opening yourself to a completely different experience of life. Treasure Island says that what you've been building toward may finally start showing you physical evidence that things are changing. An opportunity appears. A relationship feels different. Something you've been working on begins to grow. You start noticing that you're no longer reacting to things the way you used to. And I think your final message is stop expecting your future to repeat your past. You have already learned from that chapter. You do not need to recreate it just because it's familiar. Let yourself believe that the next cycle can be softer. Let yourself receive. And when something good begins to arrive, don't immediately look for the reason it can't last. Pile 2, your treasure island may be much closer than you think. And that is everything for you, beautiful souls of pile 2 today. Let me know in the comments below which was your favorite part, what resonated the most. And if you haven't subscribed already and you made it this far, I invite you to subscribe and join the soul family here, where I'm working on creating a beautiful space where we can all share in some collective healing and messages and share our spiritual practices. And I would love to have you and your energy be a part of that. So I hope to see you next time. All right. Hello, beautiful souls. If you picked pile 3, this reading is for you. We're going to start off with, what are you currently in the process of manifesting, either consciously or unconsciously? And what are you already calling towards you, even if you haven't fully released it yet? All right, so you guys have Queen of Cups, 6 of Wands, and 7 of Coins or Pentacles. Pile 3, I think you're manifesting recognition for something you have put a lot of yourself into. The Queen of Cups tells me this is not something you feel detached from. You care about this. You may have poured a lot of emotion, intuition, creativity, or genuine love into whatever you're trying to create. And then we have the 6 of Wands. So there's a very strong energy here of being seen, being acknowledged, receiving validation, getting the result. Having other people finally recognize what you've been working towards. For some of you, this could absolutely be career success, a creative project gaining attention, reaching a personal milestone, or finally receiving the recognition you've been waiting for. But But then we have the Seven of Pentacles, and that tells me this has probably not been an overnight manifestation. You've planted something, you've nurtured it, you've waited, and at times you may have wondered, is this actually going anywhere? But the Six of Wands sitting between these cards tells that your manifestation is the payoff. So not necessarily instant gratification, but that moment where you finally begin to see, okay, everything I've been putting into this is starting to produce something. And I think there's another layer here too. You may also be manifesting a version of yourself who no longer needs to constantly question whether you're on the right path. The Queen of Cups already knows what feels right. The Seven of Pentacles trusts what she's growing. And the Six of Wands says eventually the outside world begins to reflect that back to you. So pile 3, you're manifesting growth that becomes visible. Something you've been quietly nurturing has the potential to move from I hope this works into I can actually see this working. So now we're going to ask what is currently delaying or blocking this manifestation from fully coming into your reality. Okay, so you have the Moon, the Page of Coins, and the Page of Wands. So pile 3, I think the biggest blockage here is actually uncertainty. The Moon can make everything feel harder to read. You might know what you want, but not know exactly how to get there. You might be questioning your intuition, second guessing your decisions, or worrying that you're putting energy into something without knowing whether it will actually pay off. And then we have 2 pages. So we've got the Page of Pentacles and the Page of Wands, which both tell me this manifestation is still in a very early developmental stage. There's potential here, absolutely. But I think part of the frustration is that you may be looking at something that's still a seed and asking, why isn't this a tree yet? The Page of Pentacles says there's still something to learn, practice, or build consistently, while the Page of Wands says there's excitement, curiosity, and possibility, but also a tendency to jump between ideas when something new catches your attention. So the blockage may be a combination of not trusting what you can't see yet and not giving one direction enough time to properly develop. The Moon wants clarity. The Moon wants certainty. The Page of Wands wants excitement. But the Page of Pentacles says keep showing up. Keep learning, keep building the foundation. Because remember, your first cards included the Seven of Pentacles. This was never really showing us an overnight manifestation. It was showing us something you've been nurturing towards a visible result. So if you keep digging up the seed every few days to check whether it's growing, you're going to make the process feel much harder than it needs to be. So I think the message here is you don't need to know exactly how this ends yet. You just need to know what the next practical step is. Let yourself be a beginner where you need to be. Let yourself experiment, but don't abandon something with real potential simply because you cannot see the entire path yet. Our next question is, what part of this manifestation is already shifting, developing, or being put into place behind the scenes that you may not be able to see yet? All right, you guys have the Knight of Cups, the Six of Coins, and the Lovers. So pile 3, I think something is already beginning to form around mutual energy and alignment. The Knight of Cups feels like something moving towards you, whether that be an offer, an invitation, a person showing interest, a creative opportunity, something that actually feels emotionally exciting rather than like another obligation you have to force into place. And then we have the Six of Pentacles, which tells me there's an exchange developing here. You've already put a lot into whatever you're manifesting. We saw that immediately with the Seven of Pentacles, but behind the scenes, I think you're moving into a stage where you're not just constantly giving. Something starts giving back to you, whether that be recognition, support, money, an opportunity, someone meeting you halfway. And then we have the Lovers. So now for some of you, this absolutely could involve a relationship or significant connection, but the Lovers is also about alignment and choice. Something may be developing that actually matches your values and the direction you're trying to go in. And I think that's important because your blockage was the Moon with those 2 pages. uncertainty, experimentation, wondering which direction is actually worth pursuing. The Lovers suggests that one option may begin to stand out because it just feels more aligned. You won't have to convince yourself quite as much. So behind the scenes, pile 3, I think you're moving towards a situation where the right person, opportunity, or path begins meeting you halfway, and that changes everything because you've already done a lot of the planting. Now you may finally be entering the part where something starts responding to what you've been putting out. So now we're going to ask, what are you being asked to believe is possible for you now? And where do you need to think bigger than you currently are? Okay, so you have the Queen of Swords, the Empress, and the Magician, pile 3. Jupiter is asking you to stop thinking small. The Queen of Wands comes in first and says get really clear about what you actually want. Not what feels realistic, not what other people would understand, not what you think you should be satisfied with. What do you actually want? Because then we have the Empress and the Magician together. And this is such a powerful manifestation energy. The Magician says you already have more ability to create this than you realize. You may still need to learn things, develop skills, or refine the path. We saw that with your pages, but you're not powerless here. And the Empress says you're being asked to expand your capacity for abundance, receiving, and growth. This can be more money, more success, more recognition, a thriving relationship, a creative project, growing beyond what you originally imagined. Whatever your manifestation is, I almost feel like you've been asking, can I make this work? And Jupiter's trying to shift the question into how big could this actually become if I let it? Because the Empress doesn't create from scarcity. She expects what she nurtures to grow. And paired with the Magician, there's a really strong message here that you need to start seeing yourself as an active creator of the outcome, rather than somebody waiting to find out whether life allows it. The Queen of Swords also tells me you're going to need discernment. Not every option deserves your energy. Not every opportunity is aligned. But once you know what you're building towards, commit your resources to that. So pile 3, you're being asked to believe that you can create something that is not just successful, but abundant. Something that grows, something that gives back to you, something that becomes much bigger than the seed you're looking at right now. Which brings us into our next question. What practical action, discipline, or commitment does Saturn require from you to help this manifestation become real and lasting? You got 5 of coins, 10 of wands, and 7 of coins. Pile 3. Saturn is asking you to stop building this from a place of, I have to make this work or everything falls apart. The 5 of Pentacles can create that scarcity mindset where you feel behind, unsupported, or like you need to push harder because there isn't enough yet. And then we have the 10 of Wands. So what happens? You take on more, you work harder, you carry everything yourself. You tell yourself, I'll rest once I get there. But Saturn is saying that's not sustainable. Because then the 7 of Pentacles has come out again. And this was one of the very first cards in your reading. So patience is clearly part of your lesson. You're building something that needs time to mature. And Saturn's version of patience isn't sitting around doing nothing. It's show up consistently without constantly demanding immediate proof that it's working. Keep watering the thing you've planted, but stop exhausting yourself trying to make it grow faster. For some of you, Saturn may also be asking you to become much more realistic about your resources. So think your time, your money, your energy. What can you genuinely sustain long term? Because if this manifestation is supposed to become something substantial, you need to build it in a way that you can actually keep doing. So your practical commitment is consistency over urgency. So stop measuring your progress from a place of lack. Stop carrying more than you need to, and trust that something can still be growing even during the periods where you cannot immediately see the result. So Now I'm going to ask, what habit, fear, or pattern could sabotage this manifestation if you don't become aware of it? Okay, pile 3. So you have the Page of Swords, the Knight of Coins, and the 8 of Wands. I think your biggest risk is becoming too obsessed with whether it's working yet. The Page of Swords watches everything, checks, analyzes, looks for signs. And considering what we've already seen with the Seven of Pentacles twice, I think some of you have a tendency to keep checking the progress of something that actually needs time to develop. Then we have the Knight of Coins. This is the pace your manifestation seems to require. Steady, consistent, sustainable movement. But the 8 of Wands is completely different energy. It's fast, immediate, suddenly everything is happening. So the sabotage could be the cycle of you patiently work at something, then become frustrated that it's not moving quickly enough, and suddenly try to force 10 steps at once. You change the strategy, start something else, push harder, or convince yourself that slow progress means you're doing something wrong. But I don't think slow means stagnant here. In fact, your entire reading has repeatedly shown us something growing over time. So be careful not to abandon a solid path because you're craving immediate evidence. The 8 of Wands tells me there will be periods where things accelerate very quickly, but you don't need to manufacture that acceleration yourself. Let the Knight of Pentacles build the foundation. So when the 8 of Wands arrives, you're actually ready for the momentum. So now I'm going to have a little look at what changes once you fully commit to this manifestation. 7 of Swords, King of Coins, King of Cups, pile 3. First of all, we have 2 kings, and I think that's really significant because we've had pages and knights throughout your reading, but now when we ask what happens once you fully commit, you move into king energy. This feels like maturity, mastery, and becoming much more confident in what you're building. But first we have the 7 of Swords, and I actually think this is you becoming much more strategic. You stop telling everybody what you're doing. You stop looking outside yourself for constant reassurance. You stop wasting energy trying to convince people who don't understand your vision. And for some of you, this could also be finally recognizing the ways you've been quietly sabotaging yourself and choosing differently. Then we have the King of Pentacles. This is stability, security, long-term success. Knowing how to manage what you've created rather than just hoping it grows. And beside him is the King of Cups. So you're not only becoming more materially grounded, you're becoming much more emotionally grounded as well. You stop allowing every setback to completely change how you feel about the path you're on. You become able to say, I know what I'm building and I don't need immediate proof every single day. And with 2 kings together, there may also be 2 significant people, mentors, collaborators, or even influencers that become important for some of you. But more broadly, I think these kings represent 2 parts of you coming together. The ability to build something substantial and the emotional maturity to actually hold it when it arrives. That's a huge shift from where this pile started. You're no longer asking whether you're capable. You're becoming the person who knows they are. So now let's have a little look at what is the next tangible step you can take towards making this manifestation real. Okay, so with 5 of Wands, 4 of Swords, Page of Wands, pile 3, your next step is actually to stop fighting with everything at once. The 5 of Wands can be competition, conflicting priorities, too many ideas, too many voices, or simply feeling like your energy is being pulled in 5 directions. And then the 4 of Swords says pause. Not give up, not abandon the manifestation. Just create enough mental space to actually hear yourself again. Oh, confirmation burp right there. Because then we have the Page of Wands. And this card has already appeared earlier in your reading. There's still a very real spark here. An idea, a direction, something you're excited to explore. But I think you need to separate that genuine excitement from all the noise around it. So instead of asking, what should I be doing about all of this? Ask, what is the one thing I genuinely feel pulled to begin next? The Four of Swords clears the noise. The Page of Wands gives you the next experiment. And the Five of Wands reminds you that you do not have to compete with everybody else, follow every opportunity, or pursue every idea at the same time. Your tangible step is step out of the chaos long enough to choose one direction that still excites you and start there. Now, our last question for the tarot is, what could this manifestation become over the next 6 to 12 months? Okay, so the Chariot, the Ace of Wands, and the Knight of Cups. Pile 3, this looks like real momentum. The Chariot is movement, direction, and finally feeling like you're actually going somewhere with this. And that feels especially important because so much of your reading has been about patience, waiting, building slowly, and wondering whether something is growing behind the scenes. So over the next 6 to 12 months, I think you could move out of that waiting phase and into, okay, this is actually happening now. And then we have the Ace of Wands, a new beginning, but one that feels exciting. This could be a new project, a creative direction, opportunity, passion, or simply a surge of confidence that makes you want to pursue something much more seriously. And then the Knight of Cups comes through. So whatever begins here doesn't just look productive, it feels emotionally meaningful as well. There may be an offer, invitation, collaboration, relationship, or even an opportunity that feels like something you genuinely want, not just something you think you should pursue. And I love the Chariot with these two cards because it says once you know what excites you and what feels aligned, you actually go after it. This manifestation could become a completely new direction that gives you both momentum and emotional fulfillment. You've spent a lot of this reading learning not to force the timing, but when the opening comes, I don't think you'll be standing still anymore. So now we're going to move on to the Oracle and we're going to ask, what is your final manifestation advice? Okay, pile 3, your Oracle card is Alchemy Magic, and this feels like the perfect card to finish your reading because the message is you are the magic. Magic isn't necessarily some miracle that suddenly drops your manifestation into your lap. It's what happens when you take what you already have, so your skills, your intuition, your ideas, your experience, and turn it into something new. And that really takes me back to the Magician earlier in your reading. You already have tools available to you. You may still be learning how to use them, but you're far more capable of creating this than you sometimes give yourself credit for. And the message in this card says, doubt kills more dreams than failure. I think that's incredibly relevant for you because we've repeatedly seen that tendency to question whether something is growing quickly enough, whether you're on the right path, whether you should change direction. But failure isn't necessarily the thing you need to be afraid of. Sometimes trying something and discovering it doesn't work simply gives you more information for the next step. The bigger risk is doubting yourself so much that you never give your potential enough room to develop. So your final message is have faith in your ability. Not because everything will magically happen exactly as you've imagined it, but because you're capable of adapting, learning, creating, and continuing. You don't need to wait for magic to happen to you. You are the person creating it yourself. And with that, that's where I will leave you, my beautiful souls of pile 3. I hope you liked the reading. Let me know in the comments which part resonated the most, which part you liked the most. And if you haven't already, if you've made it this far and you're not subscribed, I invite you to subscribe and join the Soul Family Collective here. I'm really wanting to create a beautiful space here. I have so many plans for the future I'm so excited for, and I would love to have your energy be a part of it. I'll see you in the next video.